Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and that you're following the 3 H's of the channel. In this video, I have a really wild story from Alaska, so I hope you'll pull up a stump with me, and I hope you'll join me as we go to the last frontier. Thank you for watching. I'm a forest firefighter, a former hotshot, and just a general deep in the woods type of guy. The deeper the better. But I had something happen in the summer of 2009. I was out on an exercise with our team. It was the middle of nowhere in Alaska, and it sucked. We were doing standard hotshot junk and prepping for forest fires that might come up. I'm a human Smokey the Bear, or at least that's how I felt. Speaking of bears, there are a lot of bears. We've seen bears before. We're not even really worried about them anymore, that we've seen so many. Honestly, the bears might think that we're one of them at this point. Of course, we follow our standard safety precautions and all that. We think little of all of it, since we're all pretty seasoned by 2009. Nighttime comes around on day 3, and you can hear the bears, somewhere out there, fighting. This isn't unusual, and it doesn't rightly bother us. But then, something does. The cries of an injured bear fill the air in the wee hours of the morning, followed by a piercing howl. Not a wolf, not a deer, not a moose. No idea what it was. Now, we're not the kind of gentlemen to be shaken by the prospect of a cryptid in the woods, and because we all, in the back of our minds, I'm sure, assumed that it was a moose or another big animal just making a weird noise. It happens out here. We get up at sunup and our work assignments are handed out. The foreman makes mention to the bears. He says essentially that if there's an injured bear out there, then we need to be careful, because that means that there's an even larger bear or a highly aggressive bull moose out there too, and we do not want to fight that. The day though goes as normal: woodcutting, trail making, prep, so on and so forth. We hear the occasional howl from the bear, which we know is somewhere in the area, but not from anywhere we can determine. It's weird. Lunch mess comes around, and a crew of 4 doesn't return with no radio contact. Their assignment was to head to a nearby river tributary and collect water samples for the Department of Fish and Game. I volunteer with another 3 to go and find them. We assume that they're still out there and that the radio's just screwed up somehow. I head down to the river. On the way, we distantly hear the same shout from the night before. It echoes all through the woods. A high-pitched, positively monstrous call, the likes of which I have never heard. It kind of struck us to our bones a little bit. But being with the stock of men who think with a measure of rationality, we all still firmly believe it to be a moose or a distorted call from another large animal. We reach the river mouth and spy the crew's gear and 2 of the crew. We greet them and they greet us back, and we ask them what the hell they're doing still out here. Sure enough, their radio died. The other 2 guys are just upstream a bit. They come down and we help them pack, and then we try to get moving on. As we pack up though, one of them shouts, "Holy F, what's that?" And he points to the tree line 200 meters opposite of us. Peeking from the tree line, just barely visible, is a head, easily 2.5, 3 meters off the ground. All that's certain is that it's a very massive animal. We look on in bewilderment for a moment before it ducks back in behind the trees. Now I thought, that's our moose. And then I realized just how big he was. After this short setback, we returned to base with the crew in tow. We informed the team that we saw the moose on the opposite side of the river, and it was huge. The team makes note, and we advise to stay clear of unnecessary activity by the riverbank, since the moose may be there looking for females to rut, even if this is just past the season. So, with that, we get back to work. Night comes around, and the familiar sounds of Mother Nature unleashing her great titans on one another fill the air. A storm rolls in around midnight and fills the air with the echoes of a deluge of rain, the kinds of which the Bible tells us swept away the old world. Rolling thunder filled the air, and we all learned a bit why the bombing campaign in North Vietnam was named such a thing, and we were all left to silently wonder if the USAF's B-52s could even hope to match just how loud this storm was. But even through all of that infernal howl filled the air, drowning out even the grandest of Mother Nature's symphonies. At one point in the night, the screams, which had slowly worked their way through the woods, came from what I would say was mere hundreds of meters from our camp, within visual distance surely. When the day began, the storm had not subsided, but the screams had. Our metal was tested, but not cracked. Our foreman seemed to be more inconvenienced with this than anything. He said, "Look, that damn moose is bold. We're going to erect some barriers, and we'll put down some repellent, just to keep it out of the camp. Today's job orders are standard affair, and we'll be coordinating with another hotshot trail maintenance unit coming along through today. We'll be hosting them this evening, and then the next day, on their way they'll go. I was assigned to the maintenance party, so we go to meet our brethren. The team meets up with us after a few short hours of work. Immediately, I notice that they all look very unsettled. We ask them, 'What's up, boys?' They say that we found a set of bears about 3 clicks out. 'A set?' They say, 'Like 4. We say, 4 bears. They say they found them dead, mauled, absolutely destroyed. We quickly radioed this in to the foreman. We get permission to go look. The team and us get a move on. We reach the area with some natural rock covering, a good place for bears to live. What we see is like nothing I have ever seen before. 4 bears, 3 adults and a single cub, over an area of maybe 200 meters, all gored and mauled to death. There's a pair of trails leading away. The storm made mud of much of this area. One, a set of tracks headed to our camp, that of a small grizzly. The other, hooves, large, bigger than any moose print I have ever seen by an order of magnitude. A typical moose track is 13 to 18 centimeters in length. This one was easily 24 centimeters plus. What's more is that it's slightly more rounded, implying the animal has naturally more mass to it than a moose of comparable size would. I got thinking then, what the hell is this thing? The bears are all gored to death, heads split, intestines strewn about, chests collapsed. The cub looks like it was simply trampled to death, maybe by the assaulter, maybe by its own, in an effort to escape. Whatever this thing is, it's effing huge. The rest of the day, though, goes completely as scheduled, with no weird things happening. Returning to camp, we see a set of barriers have been erected about 4 feet high, and one line of powder has been laid down. Repelling powder is a common part of hotshot crew kit for driving away large predators and just generally other wildlife. Its strong odor is offensive even to humans, but more so to the olfactory gifted. Night chow is hearty in large portions, more than normal. The night is clear and cool, and we spend time standing around, mingling in our impromptu tent city. Just before lights out, though, that scream is heard in the distance. A panic wave sweeps through the other hotshots. It followed us. I say, "What? What are you talking about?" They say that we've been stalked by the same howl since last week. We thought that it ditched us 2 days ago, but it's back. What is it? We don't know. We've never seen it. It's been here for about 3 days. A second scream billows out from somewhere else in the woods. An immediate call is heard after. There's 2 of them. Whatever this is, there's 2 of them. The new foreman is visibly shaken. our foreman, a massive rock on which the waves many a man's trouble have been broken, and whose fists have likely broken more jaws. Even he seems really unnerved by this. We are 40 well-trained, experienced, fit woodsmen, and at that moment I remembered hearing that these calls were clearly from two different members of the same species, clearly complementary in nature. I felt my heart drop to my feet. An icy shiver ran up my spine, and I reached for my gun. The night was marked with the encroaching calls of these unseen tormentors. Sleep was impossible. Just before sunup, a call came that sent collective fear through the camp, the likes of which we did not feel again. A call from inside the camp. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was bravery, but I looked, and there, in the middle of the camp, silhouetted by our meager light, I saw what I can only describe as a horror. At its shoulder, it was easily 2 meters. Its head was easily 40 centimeters more than that. Atop its twisted head sat a bed of thorn-like outgrowths that I hesitantly call antlers, spanning outwards in a spiraling nightmare. Jagged teeth puzzled its pale brown fur around its face as 4 massive legs carried it, seemingly effortlessly, through the raspaditsa with a gentle squish. Its soulless black eyes gleamed with ethereal bewilderment as it seemingly floated through the camp, its hot breath steaming from its elongated snout. The antlers were blackened and glistened with what I can only assume was blood. This was the bear slayer. This was our monster. It had never managed to develop to a point of full fear for me until these last few hours. I seldom had time to process what we could really be dealing with, something that defied logic or reasonable explanation before the eldritch horror presenting itself to me. I clutched the handle on my Smith & Wesson tightly. The 4.5-inch long 50 caliber monster seemed much more monstrous when the prospect of defending myself against a bear was my worst-case scenario. But now, I was contemplating employing 5 rounds of 400-grain 50 caliber bullets against what may as well have been a dinosaur. The others in my unit looked on, and what I can only describe as a feeling of abject horror and even wonder, as this great being walked through our camp, swinging its massive horns side to side. It stepped oh so casually over our barrier and let out a proud yell, continuing in the direction of the other scream. The morning came soon after, but the screams did not stop for some time after this. No work orders were handed out that day. There was no mess. There was no movement. We waited to be attacked by these 2 great beasts from a land that time forgot. But the attack never came. My foreman called in project delay due to wildlife activity. He said that a wolf pack was the issue. Who would blame him? No one was ever going to believe that we just saw a living, breathing god of the forest. The night came, and the screams grew louder. Those of us with guns clutched them strongly to our chest. Between us, we threw more mass in a single 1-second burst than a single 70mm shell did, but we wondered if that could even be enough to stop these things if we had to. Sometime, just before midnight, they came to our camp. I looked again. For some reason, I was less scared this time. It wasn't as horrifying a concept to see our monsters. These 2, a male and a female, wandered through our camp casually. The hot breath issued from their long, jagged mouths, sniffing the air occasionally. The male was the same of the night before, but the female was just slightly less than his size, without horns. I had neglected to notice it, but the male had tusks jutting from its lower jaw, at least 1.5 meters long. They strode through the area, mostly silently, for about 20 minutes. As they left, in what was a horrifying display of power, the male's leg struck a medium-weight ATV that we use, tipping it over and pushing it a good 2 meters. Their calls were heard through the night as they wandered away into the woods. Morning came with an unsettling silence. Work orders came. Armed and ready, we went about our business. For 2 days after, there was no sound in the forest, no wildlife, no insects, no birds. Eventually, it all started to come back. Satisfied that the great beings were gone, we got back to our jobs. We all agreed, just before we left, that this should not go public. After all, who was going to believe us? I am convinced that what I saw does have a logical explanation. They were not horrible, disfigured-looking animals, but their size was absolutely beyond of that which I thought possible for any terrestrial animal. They were most certainly a member or relative of the same family of moose or elk, but their size, their tusks, I just don't know. But this is not the end. 3 years later, in 2012, I find myself and 2 former members of that 2009 crew back up in the last frontier again. We sit at a restaurant, drinking beer and eating. A trio of state rangers come in, half dressed in uniform. We offer them a seat and drinks, perhaps for some interdepartmental intrigue. We drink ourselves to a fine buzz and begin talking about some of the oddities that we encountered in our days. One of the other hotshots looks at us, nods, and starts a story. In the summer of 2009, we exchange parts of the story and give equal accounts of what we saw. The rangers, mouth agape on each of them, listen in abject enthrallment. After a few moments of silence, one speaks up. You saw one too. They've seen them. There's varying reports. Sometimes they have 3 eyes. Sometimes they have 1. Sometimes they talk. Sometimes they imitate voices. Sometimes they eat flesh. Sometimes they just walk and watch. But they're always huge. They always have tusks. And they always scream. The rangers have seen them, and one claims to have shot at one, of course, with no effect. Hunters in the north have claimed to see them for decades. Locals claim them to be forest spirits for centuries. From Anchorage to Deadhorse, sightings of all sorts of these things come in. They aren't repressed, they aren't hidden, but those who do report them get the reports swept beneath the tide of a billion other less credible cryptic reports of seeing something out there. But these things, they are out there. Reminders of a bygone era, creatures from a time long past, surviving in the Alaskan Canadian wilderness where men dare not venture. If you see one, you might be blessed, you might be cursed, but don't let them look you in the eye, or they will effing kill you. That seems to be the one thing that the myth lives consistent on. Looking at them in the eye is an act of aggression. They don't seem scared of people, just disinterested. The rangers tell us that hunters have seen them, and the natives say looking at them makes a man go mad. But they never go near cities. The forest is their home, and as far as I'm concerned, they can have it. The closest real thing that I have seen to it are the renderings of the great Irish elk, but even that's too small. I could understand how some think if they see it that it's a very large moose, but the tusks, the antlers, the eyes, and the call is anything but. So, what exactly do you think that they saw up in Alaska? Do you think that it was a remnant of a bygone era, a remnant of a different age? Do you think that it was something more logical, something more modern? Let me know down in the comments. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, and videos like it, topics like it, I post 3 times a week, so I ask you to like and subscribe. And if you've been here and you want to support the channel just a little bit more, then there's a PayPal and a Patreon that you can donate to the channel. There are memberships and super thanks here on YouTube as well. And as I've been saying the last few weeks, there is a new feature called a hype feature. Apparently, it helps the videos get to a bigger audience, is my understanding of it. I think that everybody, or some people, have some hype points or hype things they can use, so if you were to use one on my video, I would be very grateful for that. Of course, just liking, subscribing, watching the video, commenting, and telling your friends and all that stuff about it really helps the channel out too. So, with all of that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have a story of your own, I have an email in the description that you can send it to, or some people like to post it in a comment, whatever's better for you. Until the next one, I hope you enjoy your week, and I hope you'll stick around for the next video. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching. Have a good week.